So I've made it no secret that this is my absolute favorite time of the year because haunted houses start popping up everywhere, horror movies start coming to theaters, and honestly horror games just hit a little bit different when the sun just starts going down sooner and sooner. But this year has been a little bit different for me, at least on the horror game front, because for the first time ever, I believe I've played more horror games in portable form than any other time before. Now to be fair, I have played a little bit of horror games on the Nintendo Switch before and spent actually a fair amount of time playing Dead by Daylight on that platform, but by and large, I've spent most of my gaming time historically before this year playing horror games on a conventional TV setup on consoles like the Xbox or the PlayStation 5. But since I've clearly shifted my gaming in a big way towards the Steam Deck, it really got me thinking about why portable horror is so great and some of the reasons that I think it carries some distinct advantages over a traditional like gaming rig setup or a living room setup where you would play on a regular console. And I don't just say that because of its ability to amp up the scares in portable form, but also really just to enhance the spooky vibe overall, even if you're not looking to be completely terrified by it, if that makes sense. So that's what today's video is all about. Really, I just wanted to go over a few different reasons that I personally find the portable horror experience to be a really cool one, and that even, again, if you have a gaming rig or a really capable, multimedia setup for horror games, that I still don't think the portable format should be disregarded. And one of the first reasons that I want to kick this list off with is because portable horror can be extremely immersive. Now, I'm not going to say that if you opt to play horror games at your desk or at a really awesome living room setup, that that's not immersive or anything. I'm just saying that I think the portable format has a little bit of an edge in terms of how well it can keep you just absorbed in the game. Because if you make all of the lights just completely dark and you're playing with a device that's just like, a few inches away from your face while you're playing, that pretty much cuts out almost all of your peripheral vision. Whereas, if you're playing on a TV or a really bright monitor, some of the stuff in your periphery can be illuminated that might be distracting. Maybe I'm nitpicking here a little bit. I'm just saying that anytime that I've played a portable horror game, whether it was on the Steam Deck or previously on something like the Vita or the PSP, that it was a really immersive experience for a couple of reasons. One, again, you can just make it so that it's right in front of your face, so you can't really see anything else very easily, so it's really hard to escape whatever scares might be jumping out at you from that particular game. But then also, if you play with something like big, fluffy, noise-canceling headphones or something, then you're going to hear absolutely everything. Just every tiny creak and groan of the floorboard, like creaking underneath your feet as you just work your way through a terrifying environment. And then also, one of the other things that I like about it is that it does make sure that your eyes don't have to travel quite as far to keep track of the action. Sometimes, depending on your viewing distance with like a really big monitor, even though it's impressive just at a glance, it can be a little bit more difficult, I think, to sort of keep your eyes focused where they need to be. Now, to be fair, horror games aren't exactly as frenetic affairs as like an action game or something like that. But nonetheless, I just think that when you add all these reasons up together, that portable horror can be just an incredibly immersive experience and one of my favorite ways to experience horror games in the modern age. And the next reason that I really like horror games in the portable format is admittedly almost a complete contradiction of what I just said about it being so immersive, and that's that you can make it not immersive if you want it to be. Now again, if you want, you can be completely absorbed into a horror game in the portable format. If you want to do things like turn out the lights, like hide under some covers, put on some, big fluffy headphones, and just kind of immerse yourself in like an audio cocoon so all you can experience is the raw terror of the game. But on the flip side, if you're like me and you're kind of a scaredy cat, you can also kind of scale that tension down a little bit with a portable horror experience by, just taking advantage of the environment that you're still exposed to without it dominating your entire TV screen. Things like, turning the lights up, or if you want, you can blast some really happy music that makes it really hard to be afraid of anything, like, I don't know, like Beach Boys or something like that. Or maybe you want to take your Steam Deck with you on the train or something and play it while you're surrounded by other people to really kind of take the fear factor down a little bit. And if that's the way you get down with horror games, I think that's absolutely great, because I don't think there's like a right way to play horror games necessarily, just your way of playing horror games. So if the best way for you to experience that, if you really want to just like, experience the story of some horror game that everybody's been talking about, but you need to defang it a little bit by making the environment a little bit sunnier around you, I think portable horror is great for that. Plus, I just think it's a little bit easier to take like a portable horror experience and maybe just set that to the side for a few minutes while you catch a breather if you're just particularly terrified of a game. Fun fact, I absolutely had to do this when I was playing Doki Doki Literature Club on the Switch earlier this year or last year, I can't remember at this point, but yeah, at a certain point that game becomes absolutely terrifying. I'm sure I will talk about it in a future video on this channel, but actually what ended up happening was it got real spooky, not real fast. It takes a little bit of time to kind of ramp up in Doki Doki Literature Club, but I definitely got real freaked out by it and just had to like kind of set it to the side on the couch for just a few minutes and then, get a breather and then come back to it. But yeah, again, as much as I'll sing the praises of how immersive portable horror is, and again, it totally can be if you make it that way, it's also really great at making sure that you can still engage some external stimuli if you want to, again, scale back the terror a little bit, right? If you don't want to be absolutely just scared out of your mind and you want to make the environment a little bit sunnier, a little happier, a little easier to digest, I think that's a great way to do it. And to kind of dovetail off of the immersion breaking experience, something that I like to do, and one of the things that I really like about playing horror games in a portable format, is not just making the environment a little bit more tolerable, again, if you're kind of a scaredy cat like I I am when it comes to these games, but you can also enhance it a little bit by doing something that I've just sort of generically called second screen gaming, and that would be wherever you play something like the Steam Deck in portable form, but also near a TV so you could throw on something like a movie or something in the background. And I actually did this a couple of weeks ago when I was doing more PS2 emulation stuff, and I actually spent a fair amount of time playing some Evil Dead Regeneration while I was watching Ash vs. Evil Dead in the background. That's a game that's not technically a pure horror game in so much as it's not, just stop your heart scary or anything like that, but it was kind of fun playing as Ash and then also having Ash up on the TV in the background. And I think that's one of the distinct advantages of playing horror games in the portable format, or I guess technically you could say any game in the portable format, but I'm trying to keep it spooky here right now. Now, admittedly, Evil Dead is a very campy sort of horror, but hey, that's the thing about horror, right? It doesn't have to just be scary. In a lot of cases, horror can just be like outright fun, particularly if it's like some campy B-movie popcorn flick, or in some weird cases, I would even argue that horror can be comforting. However, that's probably a topic for a whole nother video, but for now, just know that if you are looking to fire up some horror games on your Steam Deck, that it can be pretty great to complement that experience with some horror movies to match. And some examples that I came up with be like Oxenfree and Poltergeist, Ghostbusters and, well, Ghostbusters, Dead Space and Event Horizon, or Alan Wake and Misery. Sure, I don't know if this enhances your gameplay experience directly, and in fact, it might kind of hinder it if you really need to be focused on staying alive. But again, if it happens to be a horror game that you're old hat at, and you're just kind of coming back to it as a sort of comfort food for gaming type situation, I think that could be a fun way to enjoy it. And finally, one of the last and perhaps most obvious reasons that I like horror in the portable format is that you can take it on the go with you, which opens up a whole range of new possibilities for you to experience horror games in a complete change of venue that might be infinitely creepier than what you're normally used to. For example, you could play something like Resident Evil Village while you're camping in a tent at 3 a.m. Or if you're not feeling that ambitious, you could always hit up like a local park or something and play something like The Quarry completely surrounded by a forest of dead trees in the middle of October. Or if you're just looking to amp up a spooky experience and not necessarily indulge something that's just like balls to the wall terror, then maybe you just take your Steam Deck to something like a local coffee shop and play something a little bit lighter like Cozy Grove. Because as much as I love the comfort of my own couch for portable horror gaming sessions, I can't deny that the primary aim of horror games is to provide you discomfort, so maybe taking your Steam Deck out on an adventure and experiencing a horror game in a complete change of venue might be a cool new way to breathe some new life into some old horror favorites. So yeah, to recap, I think handheld horror can be great for just like ramping up the terror, scaling it back a little bit, or just spicing up your environment with a little bit of ambient flavor, if you will. And then finally just translating some of that fear into an uncertain environment on the go where you might be able to just, scare yourself silly in an entirely new environment very easily. Alright, so that's it for this one. Really, I just want to have a little bit of fun today and see if I could zero in on some reasons that I really like playing horror games on a much smaller screen, and those are what I came up with, because I know that myself, I know a lot of you, probably have way better setups for horror experiences, but still, I don't think that portable play should be dismissed when it comes to horror games. But hey, what do you think? Are there any reasons that I didn't go over here, or is there some reason that you personally just love playing horror games on your Steam Deck or in a portable format for any other system, I guess? If so, let me know in the comments below, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on it this Halloween. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch these videos. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.